Greetings, my friends, and thank you for being a part of Wolf. We are continuing our ongoing series of developing the self. Previously, we talked about accepting your victories and your mistakes as all being a part of you. There's no shame in acknowledging that you have made mistakes because you've learned from them and you grow from them. We also presented to you the idea of the me tree. If you followed the me tree videos, then you will have created 3 separate trees which highlight your past identities and achievements, your present support system, your present strength and your present roots, and your future goals and ideas for purpose. These are very important concepts in understanding your own identity. Your identity is more than just your name. It is your culture, ethnic background, past achievements and struggles, philosophy, or your faith, worldview, or as we like to use the German word, Weltanschauung, and it is your purpose. That last word can sometimes cause confusion. The common perception of purpose is this idea of something that you will eventually achieve, but you're not yet there. Many people tell me, I don't know what my purpose is. I'm trying to find my purpose. And that is a common struggle. But I will challenge you in presenting to you that the concept of purpose is not necessarily what everyone believes it is. You can have purpose right now. Your idea of purpose may be to be a great scholar and an educator, to be someone who helps the homeless on a massive scale, to be this great philosopher or philanthropist. Those are great goals, but they're not purpose. Your purpose can be as simple as you're a good peacemaker. You volunteer with an organization. You're a talented natural healer. There's purpose right there. You may have long-term goals, but understand the difference between those goals and having purpose right now. You don't have to be great, magnificent, financially or intellectually successful to have purpose. You just have to provide anything to anyone. And that includes yourself. Meditation, artwork, writing. Understanding this will help you enhance your definition of self. And this adds to your identity. When someone says, I don't know who I am, the best thing that can be done in those situations is to step back and re-examine what you define as identity. Because not knowing who you are may be as simple a matter of you've forgotten what makes you up. And that was the purpose of the me tree, to remind you this is what makes up your identity. The final and most important part of identity is something that I know all of us struggle with, and that is labels. We label ourselves. And for people who struggle with anxiety or depression, they very often label themselves incorrectly. They label themselves failures, worthless. And I know many of you probably secretly struggle with that on a daily basis. If you only see your mistakes, if that is the only part of your past that you claim as your identity, then you're going to label yourself negatively. If you don't think you're good enough, either because you've been told this over and over again, or because your anxiety or your depression has damaged your idea of self-worth and caused you to create negative labels of yourself, regardless of your beliefs, of your history, of your culture, ethnic background, all of those things we talked about that make up your identity. You still have the right to be proud of your identity. You still have the right to respect yourself. And that's going to take some work. That's why something like the me tree is so important, to remind you what you've forgotten, to remind you what your anxiety or your depression may tell you to hide because it doesn't want you to believe in your value. The topic of labels is one that requires a lengthy discussion. Some of the upcoming videos will have some interviews where I discuss the topic of identity with a good friend of mine. In this video, I've made and I'm going to make several statements which may challenge the way that you see the world. This is not a matter of right or wrong. It is a matter of me having gone through the fires of life myself, having lived with a physical disability for nearly 17 years, So the next statement I'm going to make has to do with the second part that this video is going to present: expectations. Our expectations and how we cope with our expectations not being fulfilled determines how we are able to cope with trauma, hurt, mental and physical pain, doubt. Difficulty with managing unfulfilled or failed expectations can be a huge contributor to anxiety, depression, and suicidal behaviors, thoughts, or tendencies. This is a deep and emotional topic, but we need to talk about it. I'm going to just briefly touch on it in this video, and there's going to be a second video which goes much more in depth about this. When we were young children, if we were playing and one of our toys broke, we would immediately stop everything that we were doing and respond, usually with crying, screaming, getting upset. And if it was one of our favorite toys, we would cry and cry. And our parents might have been saying to us, "Oh, don't cry. It's okay." We are at that moment coping with our expectations not being met. And we may cry for some time. But when we're done crying, we're done crying. We have emotionally processed our expectations not being met to the best of our ability. We have cried until there's no more tears left to cry. And when it's done, pick ourselves up and we go get another toy and we start playing again. In its simplicity, this is one of the healthiest ways of coping with disappointment and pain. Somewhere along the way, as we've gotten older and become adults, we've forgotten this process. We've bought into the delusion that we're adults now, we're supposed to compose ourselves. We're not supposed to cry, we're just supposed to deal with it and soldier on. The pet that you loved and adored just passed away. Your best friend committed suicide. That long-term relationship that you value so much, that you've invested so much in, just ended. And you're just expected to deal with it and move on. My friends, that's garbage. That has been programmed into us over the years as appropriate behavior for an adult. For us to have a healthy mind, body, and spirit, it is vitally important that we emotionally process our pain, our disappointments, our failures. That we cry until there's no reason to cry anymore. That we get upset, that we emotionally process what has happened until we can get to a place where we are comfortable with moving on, just like when we were a child. My friends, we have much to unlearn as adults, and I want to invite you to start rebuilding healthy and successful habits in regards to mental, physical, and spiritual health. And one of the best places to start is understanding you need to break what you've been programmed to believe about what it means to be an adult when it comes to emotionally processing loss. I know some of the things that I mentioned previously may touch one or more of you personally. And more than likely, you haven't fully taken the time to completely emotionally process that particular event. It's vitally important that you do. It's vitally important to remember what it was like to immediately and fully process that disappointment, pain, and loss like a child. The topics that we discussed today have very deep emotional and personal impact. If some of you have been greatly affected by today's video and you're feeling the struggle of anxiety or depression, or it's bringing about in you thoughts of suicide contemplation, please let one of us here know. Please let your support system know. Whether it's your immediate family or a group of friends or a spiritual or philosophical organization that you are a part of. Reach out. Let us and anyone else you can know that you are struggling. There's no shame in it. There's no judgment here. You, my friends, have a lot to process. Take some time to really consider what this video is offering you. Wolf is here to support you, not just our staff, but also the other members who are probably struggling with some of the same things that you are and can support you. Blessings, my friends.